Hello, this is the Ranting Ranger, and today I'll be talking about Power Rangers cosplay. Specifically, I'll be going into detail about my Mighty Morphin Power Ranger Blue Ranger cosplay. Power Ranger cosplay can be very expensive, even costing a couple $1,000s. But I will show you how to get a reasonably screen-accurate costume for a fraction of the price. So let's get into it. It's morphin' time! Triceratops!
Let's get the important utility stuff out of the way before we start talking about the fun stuff. One thing you will need is something called a dance belt. When wearing a spandex costume, it leaves very little to the imagination. If you get my meaning. The dance belt helps to obscure that certain part of the male body. They cost between $25 and $45, and they tend to run a bit small, so I would suggest buying a size or two bigger than you normally would. Amazon is a good way to go for this since they tend to have easy returns if things don't fit right. The next thing you will need is a spandex undersuit. A solid color spandex suit helps the main suit move easier and keeps it from sticking to you since it won't be in direct contact with the bare skin. The undersuit will also absorb a good amount of sweat. After investing in a Power Ranger cosplay, the last thing you want to have is visible sweat spots during a con. Once again, Amazon is your best bet here since some trial and error is involved. I would once again recommend ordering a size or two bigger than normal, and it's usually about $25 or so.
The helmet is either going to be the easiest or most difficult part of the costume, depending on which Ranger you intend to cosplay. If you plan on being Red, Pink, or the Blue Ranger, then you can get a Lightning Collection helmet pretty easily. They retail for about $90, but do go in and out of production, so there could be some collector's markup. Even then, they're still probably cheaper than getting a custom-made helmet. Hasbro will eventually do a black and yellow helmet too, and maybe even a green. It's just a matter of when. For any other Ranger, you can get them from third-party groups like Aniki Cosplay, Wild Ranger 5, or Kamen Rider Nimoy. The helmets they make are typically more accurate and better quality, but can cost about $300 to $600 and can take several months or longer to get. Eventually, I would love to get one of their helmets, but for now, the Lightning Collection helmets will do just fine. The suit is obviously one of the most critical parts of the cosplay. Eventually, I would like to get a suit from Halo Costumes, but it costs $300 plus shipping for just the spandex. For now though, I will happily rock the suit I got from Champions of Cosplay.
I was able to get the suit, belt, holster, cuffs, gloves, and boots for about $200, and that includes shipping. It's not perfect, but it's way more screen accurate than any costume sold in retail stores, and will hold me over till I can afford something higher end. The belt and holster are somewhat plain, but the holster is able to hold the Legacy Blade Blaster, so it does what I need it to do. The Morpher is just a flat patch, but that's easy enough to upgrade. I'll get into that more a little later. The boots are surprisingly decent. They look the part, and the sizing is pretty accurate. They're reasonably comfortable for what they are, though I did add some insoles for additional padding, since I tend to be on my feet a lot while in costume. My biggest complaint with the set is the gloves. They are cheap nylon, and one size fits all, but are actually very small and won't fit most adults. They do stretch, but it's annoying to fight with, and they don't extend past the wrist, so sometimes there can be a gap between the gloves and the wrist cuffs. They're also made of a very slick material. This makes it a challenge to handle a helmet or any other props you might have. The good news is, just like the Morpher, the gloves are also easy to upgrade.
Speaking of upgrades, while what you get from Champion of Cosplay makes a doable Ranger cosplay on its own, there are a couple small upgrades that I did to take mine up a notch. The first thing I did was replace the gloves. The gloves that came with the costume are just bad. So I took to Etsy and found a seller called ET Cosplay, and their gloves are a major improvement. Not only do they look more accurate, they grip better, feel better, and are actually long enough to tuck into the cuffs to prevent any visible gaps from showing. They'll also last a lot longer since they're actually made of a durable material. They're $50, but are totally worth it. I personally got the short gauntlet version, and I've got the link in the description. The next thing I upgraded was the belt, specifically the buckle. Eventually I would like to replace the belt entirely, but it's not a high priority and not worth $60 to $150 to me right now. So instead, I just made a few adjustments to the one that came with the costume.
start with, the belt uses Velcro under the morpher and on the edge of the belt to fasten it. And while this does work, if there is any overlap, one side of the morpher will not stay in contact with the belt, and it just doesn't look good. This is easy enough to fix though. All you need to do is get some Velcro from any craft store or even Walmart. Use the side that will stick to the existing Velcro and stick it to the outer edge of the morpher. Put the belt on to where it's comfortable, then remove the backing from the new Velcro and stick it down, adhering it to the belt. This will give the buckle two areas of contact without having any Velcro visible. The morpher that comes with the costume is just a flat patch attached to the belt, so the next step was to upgrade the morpher to something more detailed. Technically, you could use either the Legacy or Lightning Collection morpher, but the Legacy version is pretty heavy and both are bulky and stick out too far. You also run the risk of damaging the morpher or losing a coin while walking around a con. I prefer to use a resin buckle. A resin buckle looks more screen accurate, and unlike the Legacy or Lightning Collection morpher, it's easily replaced if lost or damaged. They don't have any mechanical function, instead they are meant to look like the screen used buckles. They're three-dimensional without being bulky or heavy, so you get the added details without weighing down the belt. The version I'm using is one I made myself, but pre-made versions can be found on Etsy and typically cost about $35. To attach it, I simply superglue the buckle to the belt and I'm good to go.
The next upgrade doesn't seem like much, but it can make a big visual difference, and that is a helmet hood.
The helmet hood tucks into the suit and goes over your head. This will keep your neck and chin from being easily visible. It's a simple thing, but can really help the costume look more complete. If you're like me, it also helps keep facial hair from sticking out of the bottom of the helmet. You can find several styles online, but I prefer the spandex hood so I don't have a bunch of loose cloth hanging from my neck. I got mine from Etsy, though at the time of making this video, I can't seem to find the person I got mine from.
The last two upgrades are for the helmet and don't make any visual difference. They're mainly for comfort, but I do highly recommend them. The first upgrade is more of a modification. I took out the harness and the helmet and installed some soft foam instead. For me, the harness doesn't fit very well. The sides dig into my temple and the adjuster wheel doesn't lock, so it's always coming loose. The foam helps keep the helmet firmly in place and keeps it from shaking around. It also makes it easier to wear the helmet with my glasses on, since the harness is no longer in the way. Taking the harness out was actually pretty easy. I think Hasbro designed this with customization in mind, because the screws that hold the harness in place were really easy to get at. Taking out the harness and using foam also lets you better utilize what little space the helmet has. Play around with different foam thicknesses and in different areas to see what works best for you. To secure the foam, just a little bit of hot glue will get the job done without damaging the helmet. Just be careful not to burn yourself in the process. The final customization I did is also one of my favorites, and that is install a helmet fan. If you've ever worn a cosplay helmet for any length of time, it's awful. Even after just a few minutes, the helmet fogs up and gets really hot and stuffy, making it hard to breathe. Even though the Lightning Collection helmet has ventilation designed into it, it only really works if you're in the wind or near a fan. When you're indoors, there's almost no air circulation, which makes it hard to wear the helmet for more than a short while. A helmet fan goes a long way to minimizing these issues. Without the fan, the longest I was able to wear the helmet at a con was about an hour. By the time I took the helmet off, I was gasping for air and the helmet was dripping wet inside from all the accumulated moisture. With the helmet fan, however, I only needed to take the helmet off if I wanted to take a better look at something or take a drink. When I installed the fan, I pointed it at the visor. With the air blowing at the visor constantly, it quickly clears up most fog and keeps the air circulating in front of your face, making it much easier to breathe. It can be tricky to install a fan in a Power Rangers helmet, as the helmets tend to be a bit small, but it's totally worth the effort.
All in all, this cosplay costs about $500, which is still a good amount of money, but much less than the high-end costumes, while still looking good. The gloves, undersuit, dance belt, and helmet hood can also be used with any Mighty Morphin Power Ranger cosplay, making them a one-time purchase and future cosplay options less expensive. Power Ranger cosplay is not cheap, but it is a lot of fun. I love seeing someone's face light up with excitement when they see a Power Ranger. For kids, it's like meeting the real thing, and I love being part of that. I hope this video was helpful. If you liked the video, please give it a like and subscribe to the channel for more. Until next time, if you rant about it, it just means you love it.